But we've been, we just got to summarize everything. We've been poked for a long time
Yeah.
to think a certain way, and it culminated in the last 10 years in a lot of ways for all those different varying reasons. And I really think that just the idea of the postmodern and the critical race theory, and again, this goes along with all the marginalized groups, is part of the problem. And as we saw with the crime numbers, a large part of the problem. And higher crime numbers also leads to higher incarceration rates. So we talk about one group targeting others more, they're going to have a higher rate of arrest, higher rate of interaction, higher rate of incarceration, all of those things. And that's where you normalize the data, and that's where the disproportional numbers get thrown off.
And we can't have rational discussions about why those numbers are so different if the counter argument is always you're racist, you're defending racism. Now on the other side of that is, and I'm supposed to be the token right guy, but I see what I did there. One of the problems the right has had is basically kind of not acknowledging the particularly difficult situations and history of the Black community in America. And I mean, you see these memes about, like, how abused the Irish were, and you don't see them asking for stuff because they're not wussies or whatever. You see memes like that, and okay, well, yeah, other communities in America did have a really crappy time of it. The Irish, the Italians, the Jews, the Chinese, none of them were kept as chattel slaves for 200, 300 years, and then had a whole host of laws written around completely negating their natural rights as citizens. So you do have to acknowledge the unique position, and then also the abuse, like you were talking about, of what the powers that be have been telling people in that community for so long. You have got to acknowledge that, or you can't connect, and you'll never be able to have a productive conversation with someone.
Well, there's two things. There's creating the problem that you want to complain about. So on the activist side, they're creating the trouble they want to complain about. And again, you make a young 16-year-old Black kid afraid of being pulled over. Well, 16-year-olds do stupid stuff behind the wheel all the time, so they will be pulled over. And now he's anxious, cop's anxious, interplay back and forth, something bad could happen. Someone's been trained by the activists to get everything in a cop interaction on film. And so eventually you're going to get a video. The fact that it took so long to get a George Floyd video is actually a testament to how little that stuff happens, because this big push has been since 2013 on. BLM's message of basically don't, resist arrest, basically be obnoxious to police officers and get it on film. To summarize their philosophy from the beginning, they've been spreading. And then the other part is the right's reaction to it. It plays into it. It's very, again, they studied this stuff. They know how to make you angry. So I'm gonna make two appeals to close us out here. The first appeal is to the liberals on the left, the real liberals, not the far left crazies. The real liberals on the left is know that internally you do have something in your brain that could make you sacrifice 100 people for that one person you want to have compassion for. Whatever marker you put on that one person, and being a U.S. citizen, we are conditioned to put that on race over time because of our history, because of that bad history you talked about, all the way up until the 1960s and then beyond, because there was a lot of adjustment period in the 70s and 80s and 90s, and that actually reflects in those numbers. The adjustment period, just in people's, there was no policy. It was just people's attitudes that led to those numbers. And that's the whole point of this whole podcast, I think. But the second appeal is to the right. Quit reacting like that. You're making it worse. Half the time I spend on social media now is just saying, hey, everybody, take a deep breath. Hey, everybody, relax. This is what they want you to do.
Yeah.
Big, long Dr. Seuss thread. I was like, this is what they want you to do. This is why they did this. This is why they quit. And then right after I said that, oh, you can have a trans woman reading to kids, but you can't have Dr. Seuss, blah, 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 blah. And it just keeps going back and forth and relax. So the appeal to the left is know that you have this tendency and call out those on your side that are using it to their advantage. And the appeal to the right is quit reacting that way. Take a step back and say, learn the language. Learn the language. Say, I know what you're doing here. This is what you want me to say. What you're doing is wrong. And let's talk about the nuance behind it instead of just reacting with a meme or, again, the mimetic propagators, the left, the general human intelligence. Take a step back, point out why they're doing what they're doing, and then take the conversation from there instead of just reacting angrily. Doesn't mean you can't be angry, just be calm.
Especially if it's not something that actually affects you. That's so you brought up the drag queen reading hour, which was, for anyone who doesn't know, that was like a Portland thing. I don't remember what it was. It was at a public library and it caused all sorts of outrage. And I don't remember who I first heard say this, probably Jonah Goldberg, that one of the downsides to the internet and the 24-hour news cycle is that one of the many downsides is that every story is national. So back in the days of newspapers, no one would have heard about that outside of the town where it happened. And then if they wanted to be outraged, then they would be outraged. What the heck does it matter to you if you're living in Midland, Texas, what the people in Portland, Oregon are doing? That's their life. Okay, if you hear about it, you can roll your eyes, but then move on with your life. Save your energy for things that actually affect you. Save the national discussion for things that are actually national issues.
Well, let's get back to the day where people had improper thoughts in their head, but if they didn't act on it, okay.
Yeah.
And then we come down harder on the people who act on it.
Yeah.
We don't just try to look for different ways that it might be present in the systems. No, Shelby Steele. I'm quoting Shelby Steele, so nobody clip me here. I have racist thoughts, but I also have to know that it's unacceptable to act on them.
Mm-hmm.
And we could say that about anything. You could have a misogynistic thought for a moment. You can roll your eyes at the trans person, like you said, but don't act on it. That's it. And we can all live happily ever after. And that's where we're seeing the disparity in the crime numbers. Tenfold one way versus a very small number the other way. We do have those individuals that they're just not acting on it because it will come down hard on them. Now we've got to create an environment on the other side which doesn't justify or perpetuate acting on those thoughts, because some of those are unconscious. And so ask yourself, is this what I'm seeing in this news story, or this study someone's trying to show me, or this class where the teacher's talking at me? Is this designed to appeal to my elephant, or is this designed to appeal to my rider?
Mm-hmm.
Because right now, some people who want to, I brought up the socialist chart. America doesn't want socialism, but people want it to happen. And they're using this tribal mentality to make something the country doesn't want a policy.
Right.
And realistically, one of the analogies that's in my head, and again, this is why you can call me wrong, but you can't call me racist, is we look at an analogy of a bullet and a gun, or a bullet and a shooter. The black community is the bullets. the person holding the gun itself is someone like Ibram X. Kendi or Robin DiAngelo or even the Reverend Al Sharpton or somebody up there. They're pulling the trigger. The black community is the bullet. Yeah, it may kill the white guy on the other side, but the bullet's never the same once it's shot. And if you miss, the bullet never survives. Whether the shooter hits or misses their target, the bullet never survives. So if I'm going to place my compassion, it's going to be over that thing that has no choice in the matter, unless they refuse to be the bullet.
Refuse to be the bullet. It's a good place to end on.
Good place to end. Refuse to be the bullet.